The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. It is Wednesday, April 10th. I'm your host, Andy MacNeil. This show is sponsored by NorthStar Bets. You can check them out via the link in the description below. They offer early odds on the next day's NHL games, which allows us to look ahead to Thursday's NHL games. And we will do just that in a little bit. But of course, the big story here is that Connor McDavid is not expected to play on Wednesday against the Vegas Golden Knights. NorthStar Bets was one of the first sports books to offer odds on this game, opening up with Edmonton as a minus 156 favorite, but they were down to minus 125 by 12:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, so it didn't really last all that long. Of course, McDavid missing practice for the second straight day on Tuesday. The odds moved even more overnight as expected because look, minus 156 to minus 125 is only about a 5% change. And McDavid is worth twice as much based on what we've seen in past examples. I wrote about this, McDavid's impact on betting odds back in October when he was out for a couple of games against the Minnesota Wild and the New York Rangers. I discussed how the odds moved around 10% or more each time an injury has been announced for McDavid. Hasn't happened a whole lot, though. He's only missed 15 games without or since the start of the 2016-17 season. And they have gone 5-10 straight up in that sample. Of course, it's a big sample versus a small sample, but even kind of more concerning is Edmonton's goals per game drops from 3.27 with McDavid in the lineup to 2.33 without him. But that's really the only interesting thing I wanted to talk about here on Wednesday. Not a really interesting slate, just 3 games on the docket. But let's get into a bit of a schedule breakdown here. Of course, if you've been here before, you know what you're looking at. The rest column tells you how many days rest teams have across the league heading into their games, and the load column gives you a little bit more context, tells you whether a team is playing 4 games in 6 nights, 2 games in 2 nights, 3 games in 4 nights, etc. So a lot of hockey to be played over the next few days, but most of it is going to be played on Thursday. This isn't going to be a long show. I'm actually putting a lot of work in here for the playoffs, which are coming up right away. So got some videos planned for next week in regards to the NHL playoffs. One that will help you predict the winner of a best of 7 playoff series in any sport, not just the NHL. So been putting a lot of work into the prep work for that, hoping to get that together and get it released early next week. But let's get into Thursday's bets that I like. But first, I want to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers because look, they were the 3rd best team in the Metro Division back on March 24th, according to the standings. That was a day after they defeated the Boston Bruins 3-2. They had a 2-point lead on the Washington Capitals, a 5-point lead on the New York Islanders, and an 11-point lead on the Pittsburgh Penguins. But they've fallen to 6th in the division after losing 8 games in a row. Jake, you got a firsthand look at just how bad the Flyers have been on Tuesday when they played your Montreal Canadiens. What did you take away from that game? Just a brutal showing by the Flyers. They were trounced by the Habs, 9-3 final score.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, I think, we texted back and forth a little bit. It looked like a team that is all but given up. Um, they made Habs forwards who haven't scored in ages, like Brendan Gallagher and Josh Anderson look good, and that's a hard feat to accomplish. I mean, yeah, they just they looked lost. The speed wasn't there, and there wasn't a lot of fight back. So it was surprising for me how bad it actually was, but yeah, I mean, it just seems like there's no more fight left in that dog.
Yeah, the current playoff chances as of Wednesday, according to the Canada Sports Betting projection model, which you can find at canadasportsbetting.ca. The Islanders, they've got an 88.5% chance of making the playoffs now. The Capitals still very much in the fight with a 43.8% chance of making the playoffs. The Penguins, they've got a 32.8% chance. They look dead in the water about a week or two ago, but they've fought their way back into the mix. The Red Wings still in the mix at 31.2%, but that loss to the Capitals really hurt them. But the Flyers, they're the last team in the fight here, and they're barely in it with a 3.7% chance. And I simulated their last 8 games. I just wanted to find out, how often the Flyers would actually lose all 8 games, and how often they would have a winning record, and they really fumbled the bag here because in the 100,000 simulations that I ran, the Philadelphia Flyers only went 0-8 156 times. So that's less than a quarter percent of the time. And, 72% of the time, the Flyers won at least 4 games. So they should have had at least a 500 record over this 8 game stretch. But there's more at play here, it seems, with this team. I don't want to say they quit on John Tortorella, but um, there does seem to be something uh, to be said about them kind of running out of gas here down the stretch. But based on the odds, their closing odds, sportsbook odds, the Flyers should have not had this poor of a stretch here. They should be still in the fight for the playoff mix, and it's a choke job for the ages. But look, let's get into a couple of bets that I am looking at on Thursday. I locked in 2 bets. First up, just talked a little bit about this team with Jake. It's the Montreal Canadiens. They're playing the New York Islanders. As we know, the Canadiens spoiled Patrick Waz returned to Montreal a few months back. I bet on them to win that game, and I'm betting on them to win this one. New York's 5-on-5 expected goals percentage is just 48% over the last month. They've scored just 49.8% of the 5-on-5 goals. So they're just barely breaking even. Montreal's 5-on-5 expected goals percentage is about 45% over the last month, but their goal share is sitting at 53.5%. So the Canadians doing a pretty good job at 5-on-5. Obviously, last night's victory over the Flyers helped inflate those numbers a little bit, but with just a 3 percentage points separating these two teams in terms of their 5-on-5 expected goal share, you'd expect this game to be a little bit more tightly contested than the odds are suggesting. Now, some sports books have this one up as high as plus 180. The odds at NorthStar Bets are currently plus 175. So for most Canadians, those are the best odds available right now on the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm going to lock in a 0.75 unit bet, a three-quarter unit bet on the Montreal Canadiens at plus 175. According to my model, I think the Habs should be priced closer to plus 155. Look, the Islanders, they've gotten a lot of help here to get into the playoff picture. It's not so much what they've done, it's more to do with the fact that the teams around them have really dropped the ball. But what do you think heading into this matchup, Jake? I mean, I think the Habs. I mean, they're clearly showing that they don't really care about their place in the standings right now. They're just playing hockey, having fun. They pulled off some upsets, and over the last 10 games, they're playing 500 hockey, and they've got some swagger too. Namely, I look at a guy like Slavkovsky, who has really come alive in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's really fun to see. I mean, the Habs fans are going to be watching closely to see if he gets to 20 goals and 50 points. He's got 4 games to do it. I think he needs 2 more points to get to 50, one more goal to get to 20 after last night's hat trick.
I think he does it.
I think he does it now after last night for sure. Uh, it's been exciting to watch him develop. So Habs fans and the team as a whole has a little bit of something to play for, even though it may not be
Yeah.
playoff qualification. And the goaltending has been great. Whether it's Montembeau or Primo in nets, it gives them a chance every night. And against a goal-starved team like the Islanders, I like their chances too.
Yeah, just speaking a little bit more about Slavkovsky. Like I look at him and I think like this guy has all the tools. But you watch him play in every single game. So what tool doesn't he have? Is there anything that he doesn't have that his game could use more of? Like he's seems to be a very high IQ player.
I think the thing that's missing from his game to make him, truly Hall of Fame caliber would be an elite shot. He doesn't really possess an elite wrist shot like someone like Mikko Rantanen or something, like someone that he's compared to a lot. But he makes plays at an incredibly high rate of speed for a guy his size. Sometimes he sees passes that his teammates don't see, and I think you can see those puzzle pieces sort of clicking together. So, despite the fact that he doesn't have an elite shot to beat goaltenders in close, he gets himself into positions that he doesn't necessarily need a shot like that. So I think it's going to be exciting to see him develop over the next few years.
So he's not so much of a volume shooter, but he relies more on his skill around the net and in close opportunities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he's a lot better of a distributor than people sort of expect from a big body like that. He wants to get other people the puck, and then that's a trait that you see in a lot of young kids. They don't want to be selfish, and there's a little bit of selfishness sort of developing into his game. He wants to score too, but a much better distributor than I think people give him credit for.
Or if you're like me, I was just terrified to take the shot when I played hockey as a kid. I didn't want all the pressure on me, so I'd be like, a wide open net, pass it off.
Yeah, there you go. I
um,
mean, if he
it
misses, then
wasn't a
it's
self.
not
It
your
wasn't
fault.
a
You
me
gave him a
not.
great pass.
But it wasn't a me not trying to be selfish thing. It was just a me being terrified to be the guy, I guess.
For sure, and I
Uh,
think there's a degree of that with young players too. And Slavkovsky's finally getting that confidence to take those shots in difficult areas and make some moves. The breakaway goal he scored last night for his hat trick was an awesome move above Sam Erson's pad, and he's playing with a lot of confidence. It's good to see.
yeah, it is good to see. I think he's going to be one of those players by mid season next year. He'll be in everybody's top five kind of up and coming players that they're watching, right? And I think that's great for Habs fans. Um, the other bet that I have, so I locked in a 3/4 unit bet on the Montreal Canadiens on the money line plus 175, hoping that they can put a damper on the Islanders' charge toward the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I really like the Dallas Stars here. Of course, they got a win over the Buffalo Sabres. They're 15-3 since February 29th, straight up. For my money, they're the best team in the Western Conference. I've been saying that all along, right since the start of the regular season, or since before the start of the regular season. I like this Winnipeg Jets team. They are a strong team. They're a decent team. They've won four games in a row, but I don't think we should gloss over the fact that they had lost six in a row prior to that. And there's about 10 percentage points separating these two teams in terms of their expected goal share and their actual goal share over the last month and a half. So there's some big separation between these two teams. And I think the Stars should be a much bigger favorite. Like I said, they're the best team in the Western Conference, according to my model. I think minus 135 is a very short price. They should be closer to minus 155, according to my model. And therefore, I can justify risking 1.35 units at minus 135 to win 1 unit. So those are the current odds at NorthStar Bets. Lock that in. And I've got that one tracked along with the Montreal Canadiens, a bet at plus 175. Looking around the market, it looks like some other sports books, DraftKings, FanDuel, they are opening up a little bit higher. DraftKings opening up with the Dallas Stars at minus 148. So that could be an indication on where things are trending. I think it should trend in that direction. But FanDuel opening up at around minus 137. So closer to that North Star price. I would assume that that North Star will move though and make those odds a little bit less attractive, because that's where the best bet is on the Dallas Stars right now. North Star Bets. You can check them out via the link in the description below. I'm locking the Stars in at minus 135 to win 1 unit. But that does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. Two bets: the Montreal Canadiens plus 175, 0.75 units, and then a 1.35 unit play on the Dallas Stars at minus 135 to win 1 unit. Both of those bets are for Thursday's games. We'll be back on Friday with a live show featuring our regular guest, Nick Martin from the Action Network's Line Change podcast. Until then, good luck with your bets. Drop a like on the video, and I will see you on Friday.